In thinking together about the National Labor Relations Act, the NLRA, it's important to keep in mind the 5 following practices that an employer would engage in that are considered unfair business practices according to the NLRA. The first type of activity that an employer may not engage in, because it would be considered unfair labor practices, is to interfere. To interfere with any employee or activity of a union, to interfere with the activity of a union, or to prevent or interfere with any employee who wishes to form or join a union. There's no interference, basically, on behalf of the employer in union activities or preventing or interfering with a particular employee from either joining or forming a union. So no interference. The second thing that would be considered unfair labor practices would be for an employer to take any action that would allow the organization to control or give preferential treatment to a particular union. So the employer is not allowed to control the union or give preferential treatment to one union over another. Third, the NLRA establishes that it's unfair for an employer to discriminate. Against an employee who joins a union or engages in lawful union activity. They're not allowed to discriminate against any employee who joins a union or engages in lawful union activity. Number 4 also has the word discriminate. They're not allowed to discriminate against any employee who takes part in an investigation or files charges through the National Labor Relations Board. So they can't discriminate against an employee who joins a union and wants to engage in union activity. They can't discriminate against employees who are part of an NRL investigation or filing charges with the National Labor Relations Board. And then finally, the 5th thing to keep in mind with the National Labor Relations Act is that an employer engages in unfair business practices if they refuse to bargain with the union on behalf of their employees. So an employer is not allowed to interfere with any of its members, either engaging in union activity, joining or forming a union. The employer is not allowed to control the union or give preferential treatment to one union over another. The employer is not allowed to discriminate against any employee who wishes to join a union or engage in lawful union activity. They're also not allowed to discriminate against an employee who's involved in a National Labor Relations Board investigation or who files charges against an employer through the National Labor Relations Board. And then finally, the employer is not allowed to refuse to bargain with the union who represents their employees.